Welcome to Friday Night Lounge. No, Frosty Phoenix. You about to catch it. My name is Anthony McKee. On the ones and twos, DJ Frosty Phoenix is not playing the applause the way he knows how to play the applause anyway. So it is the absolute final last day of May. Today is my sister's birthday. Happy birthday, Tiffy, all the way in Vegas. She's listening. And this is also the very tail end, the very last show where we cap up our discussion on being whole. And it is so powerful. I thought, you know that I have this ongoing dialogue with Spirit about how these shows play out. I get like a shift prompt in the beginning of the month, and then we have to ride out every Friday and kind of see what comes of it. And this day, Spirit was like, well, this week, Spirit was like, you're going to talk about wholeness in relationships. And I was like, bet, I'm in a relationship. We can talk about wholeness in a relationship. And then, it unfolded a little bit more. And Greg Corbin came to my spirit, and Helena, his gorgeous wife, well, they're married, so they're kind of gorgeous together. And so I was like, yes, Woke Bays are going to be here. And so we're going to be talking with them about wholeness in their relationship, the unfoldment. They're newlyweds still. You consider yourself newlyweds? Yeah.
Absolutely.
They're newlyweds. So you're talking about a year in, and how is their process unfolding? And, what were your thought processes going in? Were you whole going in, and then your wholeness unfolded? Or did you make concessions? These are really interesting things that happen. I think people, once they have these ideas of what marriage is, and then once they are actually married, it's like, well, maybe it has nothing to do with what I thought it was, right? So we're going to talk about all that this hour. And then Martin is going to be in. He's going to talk about the news, because Eric doesn't want to talk about it.
Yo, stop it. Stop. Cut it out. We keep going with the rundown, but you cut it out.
Yeah. At some point, Eric is going to get to read the news. But before we get into all of that, I'm going to introduce our guest, because we're doing a lot. And don't mind Facebook Live. Don't mind my hand. We were moving yesterday, and I got damaged. Shea butter cures everything. So anyway, welcome to Just Greg Corbin and Helena Corbin. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Woke Bay's in the building. We have to come up with something bigger, because I feel like applause isn't quite big enough.
Better.
Not really.
Like fireworks. I feel like we need fireworks, right? Yeah, right? Well, you know what? We'll have Savion Glover.
Scat.
Tap dance.
Yes.
Start beatboxing.
Some
Start
scatting.
beatboxing.
That's good.
Like Rozelle.
Yes.
So, you guys, I was saying behind the scenes, that my brain cells may not all, although this fast, okay, let's go back. I'm fasting still, and every week we talk about how I'm fasting.
Okay.
And I kind of was under the expectation that I was going to be a little cloudy, and I'm actually way clear. Mm-hmm. Like, I should be tired right now, because I was up at 2. We were literally moving. I drove here from Maryland, and physically got here like a half an hour ahead of schedule.
Wow.
And I should be tired, but I'm not. Like, it's amazing how our body temples can really just hold us.
You know what's funny about fasting? Like, so when you fast, or when you give your body an opportunity to restore itself back to its homeostasis, or its moments for people, but we forget that it takes a lot of people behind the scenes.
That's right.
That's running the engine, so that person can be great or seen as great, when in reality it's an administration of people.
That's right.
Right? So Beyonce is not just one person. To me, Beyonce is an administration.
She's a
don't say that
corporation.
Don't say that to the Bayhive, right? Oh my God, what do you mean? You're disrespecting the queen. No, I'm a realist. realist and that's reality. So whatever. But at the same point, your temple. If you know more about Beyonce than you know about your kidneys, your liver, your lungs, you got to think
Well, we
about
do,
that.
because
You gotta
we're
think
taught
about
to
that.
be outward. We're taught.
Bingo.
We're taught to be outward. We're not taught to sit in meditation and
Bingo.
and when we have a problem, we're taught to pace or to to be all anxious. There's something you have to do instead of sitting your behind down and waiting for instructions. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not taught that. That's something that you have to be on a journey, on a path, a vision quest.
Yeah.
To garner for
But
yourself.
when, we live in a society that programs you and operates you to constantly be engaged with it.
That's right.
Instead of engaging with yourself, right? There's this guy named Cal Newport. He's talking about digital minimalism. He has a book called Deep Work, and he was a person that didn't get caught up in the phase or the craze of social media. And he said
Lucky
they
him.
found through the studies, he stepped back and he wrote books about what he was watching his friends experience when they got caught up in this virtual reality called social media. And what he noticed through his research and through other people's studies is that there is a generation of people or a group of people, it's not just generations, because it's generations who are on social media,
It's generational.
who can't take self-isolation with themselves to sit still and hear. So what happens is, as soon as somebody gets bored, they don't know what to do with idle time. So they have to externalize their energy instead of internalizing it and engaging with themselves. And so the point is, we do grow up codependent on everything outside of us. But the temple, as we know it, the church, the blessing that we have been given by the Creator, is truly about what's inside of you. The mind is a thing that is really the spirit of the brain, right? The consciousness.
Yeah.
It's not even attached to the brain in any way, right? It's like being present. It's awareness. But then you have the soul, which is like your essence. So when people say, I'm going to be there in spirit, it means I'm going to be there along with everything I've invested in our relationship, right? And then the heart, or the heart of the matter, the love that we share with people is not necessarily the four-chambered physical thing.
That's right.
The heart, it's the heart, the mind, and the soul. Those things you can't touch. And when you put those into you, exactly, that Holy Trinity, and when you invest in that returns tenfold. You know what I'm saying? And so,
But it's complicated because, even as, spiritual people outwardly woo-woo.
right?
Look, listen.
Right.
Listen. It's complicated because you want to be able to connect with other woo-woo people. You want your tribe. You want your community. And that's what this is about. So social media is good for building community, but like as you said, it's very easy to get caught up in it and dragged sometimes. Some people are dragged or dragging themselves.
I mean, dragging, true, right? But here's the thing, right? Like when we talk about wholeness, we talk about people building a relationship with themselves.
Yes.
Halana and I, like when we got married over a year ago, we just passed our anniversary, right?
Yay.
I love you, girl. You're so amazing.
I love you back.
Oh my God.
So serious.
You still got the honeymoon phase?
Yeah,
Still positive?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to enjoy it because challenges are coming, but we are perfect partners for one another to get through those moments of adversity. And
What
so,
does adversity look like for you guys?
I mean, for us right now, I hear some of my friends go through certain things. That's like, how do you deal with that, right? Like adversity at its worst that I've seen in relationship play out. Matter of fact, I'm going to go internal.
Okay.
I'm going to stay right with us, right? I think one of the biggest challenges that we've had is some of the life transitions that I've had to experience, and I was bringing through the house, and I was bringing home. And Halana had to watch me go through breakdowns and had to watch me externalize trauma, or had to watch me get depressed and not feel hopeful about what was happening in my life, right? And that's such a transformation. But when you have somebody that can watch you go through that, and you don't want your partner to hurt with you or to suffer with you, but when you have somebody to walk that path and it's not alone, it makes it a lot better. And I think that was one of the most adverse moments we've had as a couple. And you know, unfortunately, I had to stop beating myself up for being human and bringing it to the house, right? And we hear all these things as adults. You don't bring your problems in the household. But if you don't settle your problems, they're going to come in the household, right? So what happens when you do get to a place where you feel like you're the one talking about everything's your issue, right? And so that was one thing that I know we both experienced. And we both learned a lot about each other as individuals and each other as a union.
Yeah.
Because you experience things almost like that Trinity piece, right? Halana is one person, I'm one person, and then the essence of who we are, the soul of our relationship, is a completely different being of energy. You know what I'm
Do you
saying?
find that, I'm going to ask this of you, Halana, do you find that, how do you support your husband in that way? I guess that's the better way to phrase this question, because you know, as women, we are taught that we're supposed to be the nurturers, and so we're supposed to keep everything together, and when stuff ain't together, we're supposed to be all okay, everybody's happy, I'm happy. How do you handle that?
So I think that's a really great question. I know for a lot of people, that's probably one of the biggest challenges of relationships, whether you're partnered with somebody, you're just dating somebody, seriously, you're living with somebody. And we talked about these types of topics on the lounge like over the last couple of years, you know, was here before. But I think in marriage, I do feel that marriage does require a particular elevation of commitment that some other forms of relationship maybe don't offer. And in that respect, you know, no matter what's going on, there's no threat of ending it. That's, I think, part of the support structure that starts first in the door. Is like we have this ground rule, not ground rule, but like this foundation of understanding in our relationship that comes before any conflict or anybody trying to come inside of our relationship, or any of our past, or even any of our thoughts that are trying to kind of infiltrate this new thing that we've created. Because supporting Greg, you know, in his dreams and his aspirations, in his downfall, I mean, just supporting him all around as a person, I think requires me to be different levels of the family at the same time. So we always talk about, like, when we got married, we created our family, even though we don't have any children, you know, yet, like, us two together is the family.
That's right.
Right? And so sometimes I have to, like, do some mothering. Sometimes I have to be his sister. Sometimes I have to be his daughter. Sometimes I have to be his grandma. Sometimes I have to be his auntie. Sometimes I'm his wife, and sometimes I'm just his homegirl.
Most of the time, you're my wife, though. I'm about to say.
All of those roles, they do happen at different moments. I'm not saying like for like weeks and weeks upon time, but you know, I think the level of nurturing and support changes. And I think for me, one of the biggest like growth spurts or growth lessons I've learned as a wife in marriage to a very dynamic human being, and me being very dynamic, like it's like two powerhouses legit in the room, and you know, is to learn when to fall back and when to step in. And that's why I give such a wide range of like different kind of roles that I play, because you know, sometimes you might call your homegirl and be like, oh, da 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 da, and she's like, oh, that's crazy, okay, gotta go, bye. Like sometimes I just have to be that for him and then let him figure it out and hang up the phone. Sometimes I gotta be like, babe, we about to strategize, we gonna make this happen, da da da. Sometimes I gotta, he's crying on my shoulder and I'm more of the, you know, so I feel like
You cry on my shoulder too.
I was
it's
going
also
to say,
true.
and that's
I'm
something
sure
we
she'll get to you, honey.
Yes.
Like, wait a minute, like, whoa.
We're gonna.
But it's true. I mean, whether you
it's-
like what it sounds like or not,
No, it's both ways.
this
That's
is
what
my
I'm saying.
experience
But
with you.
You're
Okay?
talking about human to human, though. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to
It's
go to
true.
break because Eric's looking at me like, "Can you wrap this up?" babe?"
Okay, you know.
There's brother Ishmael Tete. He is a spiritual teacher in Ghana. And he says, you know how we always say we're spiritual beings having a human experience?
Absolutely.
He says we're spiritual beings having a spiritual experience.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah,
the waves of the
absolutely.
ocean is still in a wave. So with that in mind, we're going to pay these bills when we come back. Greg, I want to know how many different hats you wear in the relationship. Okay?
Yes, yes.
Trying to get me in trouble.
So funny.
215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. This is Friday Night at the Lounge. I'm Envy McKee, DJ Frosty Phoenix. Woke Bay's in the building. We'll be right back.
This is Solomon Jones, and I'm back on WURD 900 AM and 96.1 FM, and we are going to move our community forward. Tune in at 7 weekdays on WURD.
I'm back by popular demand.
I ain't no better than you, and you ain't no better than me. But we all have something in common. We all are species, seeds of God's creation.
Tune in to Messages in the Music every Friday night with Joey T, midnight to 6 a.m. right here on WURD.
WordRadio.com.
Hey everybody, we're Kindred, the family soul, and you're tuned into the lounge with Envy McKee
And DJ Frosty Phoenix
on WURD. Hey everybody,
I'm Aja.
and I'm Fatine of Kindred, the family soul. You're listening to The Lounge with Envy McKee
And DJ Frosty Phoenix.
Can't nobody love you like I do, like I do.
Welcome back to Friday Night at the Lounge. Envy McKee, DJ Frosty Phoenix. We have some breaking news. There has been a shooting in Virginia Beach. 11 people dead, 6 hospitalized. I don't know all the details at this point, but just keeping you abreast of what's going on with the news, and we'll keep you updated. But we ain't trying to ban no assault rifles, though. You know what I'm saying? We'll ban straws. The abortion has been banned in just about 3 states already, 4 states, but we ain't gonna ban no guns.
Are you really trying to unpack this right now?
We're not doing. I just wanted to say that out loud. Meanwhile,
you started to move the bag over and tried to unzip it.
No, what I was trying
Yes,
to
you
do,
did.
what I was trying to do is share some breaking news. That's all I was trying to do.
You did. But
And
then you
this is
started
the
going
art.
into
This
the
is
understanding
the
that other
art.
things are being blocked.
The art of being whole. This is what we're talking about. And wholeness encompasses, you know, when we talk about our relationships, those are important and powerful, but we also have a relationship with the world that we live in. You know what I'm saying? We are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. And unfortunately, because we live the earth school, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's on different grade levels. You know what I'm saying? And so it gets very complicated when you have to share a planet with people who seem to be in remedial classes. So we'll just leave that there.
So you
Not
wanted,
everybody can be
you wanted to
advanced.
know how I carry
Yes.
the other side.
Yes, because this is a part of it, isn't it?
I was like, yo, I'm gonna be very conscious of where we go with this energy, these moments. But I'm gonna figure out a way here. All right, so Halana mentioned like playing many different roles, and I could say the same thing goes for me on my end. Sometimes.
Oh, this is Greg Corbin, by the way.
I am Greg Corbin, and my wife Halana. We are
Woke Bays.
Woke Bays, as dubbed by Essence magazine.
Yeah, that was probably like 3 years ago.
2 years ago, we were featured.
2016, honey.
We was on a podcast
That
with
was
Tiffany Haddish
2016.
before she like blew up. So
That's
it was
true.
kinda cool. Like the
Yeah.
summer she blew up, we had just did a podcast with her.
Yeah, you can. I think the link is on the Instagram.
Might be.
Who did you do a podcast with?
Tiffany
Tiffany
Haddish.
Haddish.
Oh, yeah.
But that was like before. It was like 2016, like
But-
spring 2016.
But before you get into that, I will say the lounge has been on y'all since the beginning, and we've had y'all on to talk about and present at your wedding. So I'm just saying.
Hey, Eric.
Definitely
we
needs to
highly
be
appreciate
said.
your presence in our lives.
Thanks.
Straight up.
Observing you
Yes.
guys from afar has been a pleasure.
I don't think it
Aw,
was,
thank you so
yeah,
much.
Yeah,
You've been afar
amazing.
and nearby.
And near, of course. Yeah.
And
Yes.
you know, like when we talk about wholeness and like the roles that I might play, I'm not going to get into like the sometimes a brother, sometimes I'll say that this is my best friend. That is hands down. I don't think I'm ever really in a position where I'm a father figure, right? Like, you know, I think it's interesting. Women be like, I sometimes gotta be his mom. I don't really hear men say I gotta be their father sometimes.
Listen, that's a whole other show because there is. Listen,
So, but what I will
I was
say,
thinking about that on my ride here. How there are some relationships
where the woman is
where
definitely mother.
where the man is aggrandized for infantilizing his wife.
Right. Like really sabotaging evolution.
Right.
Right. And so what I will say is there are moments that I have to allow Halana to experience certain things.
How
And
do you
I
know?
think
How do you know when you're
because
supposed to do this?
sometimes something tells me shut up. Something will tell me get silent. You
That's
can't
great.
stop her ambition, and she has to experience what your gifted visionary skill set already sees coming. And you cannot get to a place where you're thinking that love is facilitating somebody's life experience
Come on
because
now.
they live with you.
Come on now.
Right.
Right? So humility has to settle in. And I think she does it for me as well. You know, I want to say that this is a two-way street of accountability, of allowance, of surrender, of peace offering, of conflict, of all the things that happen between human beings that make you whole, right? And when you act out of wholeness, it is more so out of healing, out of a space of understanding and awareness, because perspective is the thing that heals somebody, right? When somebody has a fallout with another person 5 years down the line, it's almost like nothing happened and people hug it out like nothing occurred, right? You see that. I think a lot of us have had that experience, right? And so when we talk about being whole, you first have to marry or be willing to marry who you are becoming. And if you're not doing that, if you don't have a relationship with who you are as a person, it's going to be hard for you to bring a relationship to anyone else. How are you going to have a relationship with somebody else when you don't even have a relationship with yourself? You don't know how to communicate with yourself. You don't know how your emotions work. You don't know how you're wired. You don't understand your childhood experiences. So I think a lot of people, based on the levels of which they've grown, take that thing into relationships and they attract the same thing they're trying to avoid sometimes. And sometimes they attract literally what they need to learn whatever the lesson is. But when it comes to marriage, I guess about maybe 10 years ago, I had a real question to myself when I was standing in the mirror. Would you marry you, Greg? Would you date you, Greg? Would you like you, Greg? Would you love on you, Greg? Because if I can't get to a place where I say, yes, I'm willing to do that.
Why would anyone else?
Why would, like, if I get to a place where I say, yes, I can do that and get through that, then it's going to be easier for me to know what I can accept and know what I can't accept, right? And I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that another person can make them whole.
Facts.
You talked right. So you said a word that shot out at me: surrender. Surrender. And it's interesting because with my partner, we from the very beginning we talked about surrender. Like every day we have to surrender every day, and that's like a very powerful word. You know, you have to surrender, not necessarily to each other, but to the thing that's bigger than us making this thing go. You know what I'm saying? And so surrender is very powerful. But if you remember, the conversations often about couples, it's not surrender, it's the other word.
Submit. Click that submit button.
Let me tell you something.
Surrender is more gentle and more humble.
It is.
It's kinder. Submit is like, I'm not submit. It's a connotation to it.
I think the connotation is, I mean, and I don't know, like, I haven't like looked up the definition in the dictionary, which I would do in a typical setting.
That's right.
But I think just from like intuitively, I think submission, it assumes that there's an outside force that's putting the pressure. Like, I'm thinking of submitting an application or submitting for a grant. It's like, this is a deadline. Get your submission in, or get your RFP submitted. Yeah, and if you don't, this is the consequences of it. You miss the opportunity or something like that. I think surrender is something that you get to make an innate choice about, and that's something we talk a lot about in our marriage, which is the daily choice of surrender. So that's why I think of surrender as something maybe you get to autonomously kind of decide to do. What?
No, I was gonna let you finish, but just a friendly friend of Google. Shout out to Google for everything. It's an action word, but when you just look up the verses of submit versus surrender, the act of submitting to someone else is literally the act of submitting to what they want you to do when you do not want to do it. Both parties do not enter it into it willingly or excitedly. And that's the problem. The difference energetically and emotionally between surrender and submission.
Yeah.
Is that a zero-sum game? Where somebody gets a benefit and somebody else doesn't,
it's a compromise.
Yeah, or I also have a weird relationship with the word compromise as well, because compromise is saying that somebody isn't going to get something that they want, and somebody else is. Meanwhile, can't both people have what they want? You know what I'm saying? Like, it can't.
So you're talking about compromise.
Well, I'm talking about understanding. I'm talking about like the words that we choose for things.
Yeah.
It just makes marriage and relationships in general just seem like drudgery. You know what I'm saying? Like you being dragged.
Yeah, I think that's another really interesting comparison. The compromise and the understanding, very similar to submission and surrender. And I think, just again, like intuitively, I feel that compromise does assume that one or more parties won't get what they are desiring or asking for, and understanding maybe kind of assumes that compromise isn't needed.
Right. We come to an agreement.
Like, we can come to an understanding. But I do feel that there are real times in life where either myself or Greg is not going to get what we want, and yet we can still have an understanding about it. So I think we tend to lean into the word compromise, and we also have a space for non-negotiables, and we did a lot of this work in our pre-engagement and our premarital counseling, two entirely different tracks. Like, when we were together for like 4 years, and we're like, all right, cool, we want to get married, we're going to do pre-engagement counseling, like before we get engaged, because there's this, I felt strongly that there's a big social pressure that happens once you pop the ring and pop the question and do this cute, beautiful, amazing proposal, and then everybody's like, great, when are you getting married? And sometimes during the period between when you get engaged and when you get married, there's a lot of stuff that comes up in that year or 2 years or whatever people are planning these weddings. And a lot of times I feel like we don't focus on the actual relationship in that space. So I was like, let's do this pre-engagement counseling. So if there are any non-negotiables or deal breakers that come up, we can deal with them in the confines of our relationship on our own time without social media being involved. Because if you post that you got engaged and then you break the engagement, it's like this big up and down and everybody's like,
I was really hoping for black love.
Yeah, when the truth of the matter is that
I have not posted not a single thing
Beautiful.
about my relationship.
I think that's great,
single
you
thing.
know?
Yeah.
So I think that really helped us to get clear on some of the stuff you're talking about, like the surrendering, the submission, the compromise, the understanding, because we had our deal breakers, we had our non-negotiables really
Do you mind
clear.
sharing what some of your non-negotiables, deal breakers are?
That's probably like a whole other.
No, just like one. Just like one. Like what's a no?
I mean, one of our ground things is like, you know, Greg will never intentionally do anything to harm me, and I will never intentionally do anything to harm him. That's like a baseline of understanding. And so when I'm like, oh, but I just feel like da 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 da, and I'm just like upset, I have to always stand back on that principle. Like, well, whatever it is I'm feeling, I know without a shadow of a doubt, he had no intentions of whatever emotions that are coming up for me in this moment. You know what I mean? So things like that, like it changes how you pivot in the relationship. It changes how you look over your shoulder. It changes how you stand next to someone, I think. And so we kind of hashed a lot. We did a lot of counseling before we actually walked down the aisle, if you will.
Yeah.
Moved in together, all of that stuff. So our process really worked for us.
Why do you think we did counseling?
Well, I said it. The pre-engagement I thought was really important to kind of get stuff clear before we actually got engaged and like announced it publicly. And then the premarital was a whole other conversation. And especially for us, because we were long distance. Where are you from? I'm from Ohio.
I had to outsource.
Oh my God! I live like 2 or 3 other places.
So how did you do counseling? You just did it like Skype.
Yeah. Either he would go in person, and then I would be on Skype, or we'd both Skype into the couple.
And here, can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk over you. I think the other point is, you know, the sit-down counseling sessions, therapy, those things are important. And I think you need a point of reflection, somebody to still you in a society that is consistently hyper sped up because of all this information we're inundated with. We're almost numb at this point. Our nervous system is always twitching. We're always engaging with something. And I think the more you engage with something outside of you, like the phone or things inside of a phone or the virtual buildings called applications, the more you do that, the more you get disconnected from grounded reality in the earth and the things you can touch, the tactile, the things you touch and feel. And I think when you start to have a disconnect like that, it starts to show up in your relationships because you're having a disconnect with yourself. Because half of you is involved in something that is virtual, the other half of you is involved in something that is physical and grounded. And I think what happens is when you go to therapy or when you go to counseling, especially as a couple, you get to ground together. You get to reflect together. You get to go home and unpack and learn and unpack more and learn and pull out the shovels, the metaphysical, spiritual shovels, and dig up.
To that process. Because a lot of people do those same therapy, things that we did, and they walk away like, I don't know what that was for. So, there is a point at which I think you have to be like, okay, I'm gonna submit. I'm gonna surrender to this process, and I'm gonna see what I can learn.
Yes.
And I will say, just like, I think a lot of people, like you said, because our relationship is really public and like we're both public figures and all these different things, a lot of people assume that we don't have any challenges and that because we did all these amazing things that we have this beautiful, perfection. And in fact, our foundation, gets chipped at daily and we have to repair it daily. And so our systems are continually in how do you say, like refinement, or like continually being thought through, like, okay, well, maybe what we did last time we had this discussion is not working today, so let's go a different route. So we are definitely in the space of being individuals first and bringing our individuality, both sides of it, the stuff that is annoying and the stuff that's amazing, to the union, to create a whole other third-party thing that is the family of Greg and I.
Vesica Pisces.
Remember love. Love is a verb, right? It's an action word.
Yeah.
But love is compassion, it's redemption, it's grace, it's patience, it's compassion, right? I think I said that. Empathy, right?
Yeah.
So it's all these things that are very hard. It's like the patience in today's society. Like patience, you damn near gotta go buy it from a store. Let me go get some patience in aisle 4. Because the world is moving so fast, and we have an instant gratification addiction now, right? And so what happens when that plays out in your relationship? Because you're not even patient with yourself. Right, so this is the part where you have to study yourself.
You have to do both, yeah.
Do you see you guys? Do you see yourselves as mirrors? Do you see?
Oh my God, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that in relationship, you attract what you are. And I know that happened for me over and over and over again.
Let's talk more about that.
Yeah, we definitely got to hold that.
Themselves.
Yeah. Let's talk more about this, the mirror and the relationship. We're talking about the art of being whole in relationships. In studio, we have Halana and we have Greg Corbin. Woke Base. Woke Bay. Woke Base in the building. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. We're talking about relationships today. Black love, mixed love, whatever you into love. We'll be right back.
We gotta go.
Okay.
Brothers and sisters, don't miss The Source. Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Word Radio, WordRadio.com, and the Word Radio app.
Are you someone who struggles with finishing what you start? The time for change is now. Coming June 4th, Letters to the Finishers by Candace E. Wilkins is a book that will give you new life. Get started on your journey to becoming a finisher today. Pre-order at newseasonbooks.com.
Support independent Black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com. The Kimmel Center offers free arts education programs to schools across the region. Teaching artists visit classrooms to educate, engage, and inspire the next generation using creative learning experiences, and schools take trips to the Kimmel Center for live performances. The Kimmel Center is committed to educating Philadelphia's youth by providing access to quality arts. For more information, visit kimmelcenter.org.
My mom is stronger than anyone I've ever known. Growing up when life got hard, her strength helped pull us through. Even after her heart failure diagnosis, she remained stronger than ever.
My family's support keeps me strong. Together, we're rising above heart failure.
Heart failure doesn't have to steal your strength. For simple steps you can take to help prevent, improve, or manage heart failure, go to riseabovehf.org.
Hey everybody, we're Kindred, the family soul, and you're tuned into the lounge with Envy McKee
and DJ Frosty Phoenix
on WURD.
Welcome back to Friday Night at the Lounge. Envy McKee, DJ Frosty Phoenix in studio. Alana, we got just Greg, and we were talking about the art of being whole in relationships. And before the break, what were you talking about?
I think I was.
We're talking about the relationship being a mirror and how you attract. I think you attract where you are or who you are at the moment. And you posted multiple times online about how you feel that I'm your mirror, in the sense that when you get married, I believe this is something you said almost verbatim quote. When we got married, or well, I'll say it in third person. When a person gets married, you are essentially marrying yourself, and you can then not run from yourself, because your partner is a daily reflection of who you are. Like, it's literally a mirror image.
And when you're
literally
when you're doing marriage right, or when you're doing any relationship right, which means you're fully aware of what's happening in your present. And I don't think you could be 100% fully aware, but what I'm saying is you have a high level of consciousness of what's happening in your relationship. You can't run from yourself. The way you're wired,
I know that's true.
Your integrity,
that's really true.
Your integrity, if aligned, it won't allow you won't allow you to run, because the cognitive dissonance will start to shrink.
And so a lot of relationships, based on that, a lot of relationships fail because people don't want to see themselves.
People, they don't. And
they don't want to hear their words coming out there. You know what I'm saying?
And what happens is people deflect, and they start to blame you because they're afraid of what's actually coming out of them from inside. And when you don't know your inside, when it starts to show up, people pull it to the surface, because that push-pull that happens in a relationship. You know, now somebody's toxic, they're traumatizing to you. No, you're traumatizing to yourself. You're toxic to yourself. You're afraid of yourself.
I will say, in addition to that, honey, that
there are
sometimes
situations where it is.
I think that's understood. But I will say, in addition to this idea that sometimes when someone is reflecting you back to you and it doesn't feel good or taste good or smell good, you get an opportunity to engage with it further. And I think when you do that, you get a better understanding of who you are and also who you can become.
Yeah, shadow work is a real thing, and I feel like we get so caught up in
it really is
the rainbows, and we forget that we're whole people. You know what I'm saying? There are two different aspects, and neither of them is good or bad.
Right. And I will add one other thing to that. I also feel that in addition to you attracting who you are at the moment and being confronted with your own tendencies through that other person on the regular, that there also is a purpose and a plan to when those things fall apart. And I can say for me, if I hadn't dated the people I had dated in the past and had those relationships fall to pieces in reflection of myself as I ran away from myself, I would never have come to the place where when I met Greg, I was ready to open. So yes, reflection, and yes, lean in and all of that, but sometimes it needs to dissolve. It needs to break down. It needs to open up in order for you to actually continue your progress
the light gets in.
and your evolution as a person.
And every relationship is not
the same.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's so.
Why isn't your relationship like mine? I don't understand. Most people say, "Why isn't your relationship like mine?" I don't understand. My relationship is easy.
Yeah.
Why are you fighting like that?
It can never be the same.
Comparison is the thief of joy. Why are you even comparing your relationship with somebody else?
One question.
and Jay got it kind of messed a lot of people.
Here's a question,
especially with Lemonade and that whole album release.
The way they kind of structured their comeback.
People were like, "Oh, you lose to Beyonce, like you messed up, you cheat on Beyonce. None of y'all got hope," type deal. Like when that album dropped, people felt like because he cheated on Beyonce, now we have no hope because no one's hot as Beyonce.
Watch this though. A lot of music succeeds because it's traumatizing. It's reinforcing the trauma. It's reinforcing the triggers. And people memorize the triggers. They consume the triggers, which means they
then they perform them.
Then they perform it back out in life because they've internalized it, and now they need to externalize it because they built this muscle and this machine around the thing that they've consciously inhaled. And what happens is they walk through life literally trying to be what they've seen play out subconsciously or consciously. Sometimes people choose conflict. Some people choose that. And so when you are making money, when you can sell, we live in a country where people sell pain. This country is built around selling pain, selling suffering,
honey,
selling
that started
fear.
with Jesus.
And thank you, right? and so the crucifixion and the sacrifices that happen with people, but like when you watch that play out, it's just emotional contagion, right? And then you listen to it, and it's on repeat in your head, and now you like, Lemonade. And I liked some of the album. Don't get it confused.
I like one song. I think the rest of it's cool too. But one song.
But people
I like Beyonce, but I'm not Bayhive, but I like Beyonce.
I'm in the band a little bit.
I'm curious what his question was, babe. I know you have another long point.
Question.
What's up?
What was the main thing off the Lemonade album after they talked about the possibility of Jay-Z, Sean Carter messing up, making a mistake? What was the main thing they talked about when it came to that album or the videos?
The main thing they talked about?
Yep.
I have no idea.
How strong she was? What?
It was Beyonce's moment of rage when she was smashing the fire.
The videos that released.
She was hitting. It was like a Michael Jackson, they don't really care about us type moment, or black and white moment.
Yeah.
And she was just smashing. I remember
she was allowed to express herself in anger.
And they said, black women, we have rage too. We need to express ourselves.
I don't remember that.
She had the bat.
It
was like
the video, but I just like the video.
Like Greg was saying, that solidified that you're allowed. That's kind of solidified. You're allowed to express yourself with this bat in that car, and unfortunately, that person's car insurance.
I know there were a lot of think pieces on it, and all. I didn't get swept away.
It's people just saying, I could sell it. I could sell it.
You know what I mean?
And I feel that, and I feel like a lot of black women definitely can relate to that rage. I think black people in general.
Well, here's the thing. I was just thinking about this. I had a long drive. I was thinking about this on the way up, and I was thinking how we do get swept away by the pain, the bitter. There's a lot of bitter that goes on, and men and women, and I believe that it's valid. Whatever you've gone through is completely valid, and it is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to do something about that bitter, because we're carrying it into like just regular life.
Stop using that R word. That's too heavy. That's too heavy.
Responsibility.
Stop it.
Y'all gotta go.
Stop it. No, but I have two questions. One question in rotation was, it was two questions. One was, and this is probably small, it's probably big to unpack, but like kind of small. How do you feel about, there are people, and like you both said, you dated several people before you finally got the situation. There are people that I've seen, and I know them to this day, that met that person. They might have dated like one person, but they met that person like in college and are married, and that's it.
Okay.
So they've met their soulmate immediately, and they're like, this, and we're gonna make this work. And I'm not gonna say they probably have their problems, but they made it work. How do y'all feel about? There are people that have to date 20 people to find their one, but there are people that find their one person without dating anybody. One person, that's it.
My answer is very ethereal with that. I really believe that if you want to continue with the conversation of spiritual beings having human experience or spiritual beings having a spiritual experience, everybody's life path is so sacred and so different.
Yeah.
So I think that would be my initial answer to that question, which is that's their life path and that's their life journey. And, you know, whether you believe in reincarnation or you believe in spirit guides or angels or ancestors or elders or the returning or whatever you believe happens after we transition, you know, it could be that this is another return for them where they get an opportunity to make different decisions, and that may be that one time, or that may be, I mean, there's so many, I feel like spiritually there's a lot of variables. I will say on a more physical plane answer, you know, I feel that people, and I know people who have been married since they were in their teenage years, in their early 20s. Like, I know people who've gotten married for the first time in their 60s, so many different ranges. And one of the most common threads I've heard them say, because we've only been married a year, right? So we ask a lot of married couples. Kindred, and you know, in particular, are good friends of ours.
Shout out to Kindred.
Yeah, they're amazing, and we have hilarious conversations with them about like the realities of life. Plus, they have 6 kids. Like, we just connect with them on different levels. And one of the most consistent through lines that I've heard reflected back to me when I ask folks, in particular to your demographic, who met the person that they've been together with for a long time and didn't date a lot beforehand, is they say we chose to make it work.
Yes.
They've had a lot of the same situations happen that people who dated serially had happened, just with different people. They had happened with that one person. So I think it's really just a matter of like what the mashup is and what daily choice you make to surrender to the challenge or to stand on the triumph and let it massage its way out.
I would also say
that's my answer for that.
I would say for those people too, I think a lot of people are very grounded in what they saw growing up. And it could also be religious, right? Like, that has a lot to do with how people are constructed to respond to challenge, right? So if you've seen situations growing up, and this is just not even hypothetical, I've seen this, but this is just a possibility of what motivates a person to meet their soulmate and work it out the next 80 years. You know what I'm saying? And in college, right? Because I was too young. I was like, too many.
From a male standpoint,
At one point for me, women were a distraction. So when I would go to the club, I'd be like, yeah, man, I'm about to go to a museum. Because I was just, the way to me, it was like, look at all this beautiful godliness, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to say beautiful art to make the metaphor, because that can be objectifying in some way.
Yes.
But in some way, it's like a moving museum, right? Just like concerts are for certain artists, right? And it's easy to get distracted. And that's kind of with me at 23 and 24. I was like, wow, so many different types of women.
You know, so I tried to commit at 21. I was with my ex since I was 19. I tried it.
Yeah.
And spiritually, I thought I was ready, but physically, mentally, I wasn't. Now I am. But I recognize now that when I made that commitment to that person, that was not what I was supposed to do at the time. And I learned through different experiences. So for me, age actually really matters in knowing what it is that you're capable of doing, whatever you think you're supposed to be. And I know you guys said you had to run, so
go
ahead,
I was
Greg.
gonna say, if you want to be whole, like, what you have to do is take care of your whole temple. And Halana is doing a very special event on Sunday that includes taking care of your temple. And
is it brunch? Did I hear correct? It's a vegan brunch?
Yes. Yes, it's a vegan yoga brunch.
And you're a chef?
Yes, I'm catering the entire event. We have about 40 people coming through, 45 people coming through.
It's on Sunday, and what time is that?
Yes, it's on Sunday at 11 a.m. In Germantown. And it's a yoga class first, and then live music and a full vegan plant-based brunch buffet. It's going to be amazing. I mean, I'm not one to brag about my food, but it's really,
brag, girl.
it's
like,
really good.
She said, I'm not one to brag about my food,
ahead,
but
brag.
it's
Go ahead,
really
brag,
going to
girl.
be shooting glitter and rainbows when
Yes,
you're finished.
it's
Not
really
to throw it
good.
out there, because I think did try your cooking at one time. We came
You
through on a
did.
lounge record. It was good.
Yeah.
Period. Pert.
This whole brunch is going to be just like good vibes.
Just like that.
So that'll be available, and you can actually get tickets at Hello Halana on Instagram, or you can get them at Greg Corbin Speaks on Instagram. I think the link is like bit.ly/vegan yoga brunch, so you can
or
get
you can go to the
tickets
lounge.
there.
We tagged them on the picture
Perfect.
to make it
So you can
simple
go
for y'all. Go to the lounge.
Go to lounge and
click on the link.
We gotta come back to the end of the show.
Yeah.
And there's actually a discount code.
Like,
if
what
you
show
wanna
is
get.
that? That's crazy.
We gotta come back.
Calling
to
us,
the
you kind of
lounge.
calling us something
So
else.
let me
you know
say
what
the
I'm saying?
discount code. There's also a special discount code for 50% off that expires tomorrow. And the code is good food in all caps.
Oh my god!
So if you go to the link, you put in good food when you do checkout, you'll get 50% off of the ticket.
So should I bring my yoga mat? Or
Yeah, bring your yoga mat and bring a full appetite.
Oh, wait.
and be
I'm
ready
doing
to
my grits and
vibe.
gravy then.
Oh wait,
Stop
I'm
it.
fasting.
Oh my god!
You'll be fine.
Yes, you can get a plate for later.
Oh
You'll be
yes,
fine.
you can.
One
I'm
other
doing
question.
my grits
One
and
word to
gravy.
give out on your way out. One word, and I've known you guys since, well, not since the beginning of your relationship, but since I met you
known us
guys. You
for
were
a
together
while. Yeah.
for a while. And in 1 year in your marriage, one word to describe your year of marriage so far. One word.
50 words. What you say?
One word. No, you're right. You're right. One word to describe your marriage a year
That's
in.
my husband trying to get as many words as possible.
And Greg Corbin speaks. It's like, go speak. One word.
Perseverance.
I would say breath.
My first word was gonna be patience, but
Why?
Why'd you
Why
say
did
it?
you say patience?
I just think
Self-censoring.
no, not even self-censoring. I was trying to dig a little bit deeper. You know, how you go extra. You try to be like, wait, is it really? Because patience is
What
the
word did you
obvious.
say?
You are Cancer.
Perseverance.
That's all of
No,
that.
patience and perseverance goes together. So
Yeah,
I can see it going
I
together.
stick with patience. I think that's and patience with you. And I was actually
Breath.
thinking about myself.
Why breath?
Patience.
Breath. I think maybe that goes with patience too. Maybe my real word is patience also. I think breath because we have to keep breathing life into this thing we built, and we can't let it just like sit in it. I always imagine our relationship like a newborn baby in a swimming pool. You got to watch it.
Ooh.
You gotta make sure it's safe. You gotta make sure it doesn't drown. Like you wouldn't just throw a baby in a pool and be like, "I'll be right back in 5 years." Like you have to be on the vigilant about that. And I feel like in this stage of building, our relationship in the marriage space is in infancy.
With the floaty.
And we gotta make sure we got the floaties,
It's
we got
growing-
the sippy cup,
yeah.
we got the CPR
It's just-
on deck, we
it's
got the
just
snacks,
now learning how to
we got
walk.
the sunscreen, you know. Yeah, so.
Woke bays.
And I will say also, you guys can catch me on Monday. On Monday.
Yeah,
morning.
no.
Monday through Friday.
Yeah,
at 6 a.m. waking
6
you up.
a.m. I
Early
love
bird.
it.
Yeah.
And what's your show called?
Daybreak. Yeah,
Daybreak with Halana.
Yeah, it's a wellness show. So
Right
if
here
you
on
want
WURD,
more
y'all.
wellness things. Tune in on Monday morning. Get your Monday started off right.
Awesome.
So they're not
Need a light.
unfamiliar with this program, okay, or this station rather.
Yeah, just keep it
Awesome.
locked all weekend, man. WRD is where it's at.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you
Sweet
guys so much for
Support
being
Black
here.
Radio.
Yes.
Support it. We talk about not having platforms and outlets. You know, this is a great opportunity and outlet and platform for people of, you
It's
know,
an outlet
of
and
brown
inlet, babe.
blackness.
It's two ways.
Well, outlet, internet.
Inlet.
However you want to put
You
it.
can
It's an
speak out and you can
exchange
call
that.
in and share.
Yeah, it's an
an
exchange that we got to celebrate and make sure that
support
we
it.
cherish.
For sure,
You know what I
for
mean?
sure.
Because we complain about not having things and we have something in the city.
We have a lot.
We do have
a lot.
I'm just gonna keep it. We got word and we can use it. Word.
Oh my gosh. Word.
You guys, I love you.
This was
I
awesome.
do.
This
Please
was
come
awesome.
back.
Thank you for being my
Every
friend
time.
for so long.
I know.
So
Greg and I have
amazing.
been friends for 2 million years.
I love that. I love
She saw
that.
me when
This
I
is
had locks.
beautiful. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see some
Yeah,
folks
I'm
tomorrow
bald.
at Roots Picnic, and then maybe on Sunday we'll see you guys at the Vegan Yoga Brunch. And you don't have to be vegan or yoga to come.
Just come and
you
be
can just
adventurous.
be and just try it out and just enjoy.
Yeah.
All people, all walks, all ages, all folks, all everybody welcome.
I love it.
Ashe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Peace.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Well, this is Friday Night at the Lounge. We'll be right back.